Hi there, Phil the Thrill here. And I wanted to do another quick kind of update video. I've been in 6 games, so I wanted to kind of touch just kind of little notes about each one. This isn't really going to be a tweaker situation. It's just little things that I noticed each game, which I thought were interesting, and I thought I'd share those things with you. So we'll start with the one that was right after the werewolf game, and that was the Witches of Dunkervale, something like that. But it was the one that Mr. Max GM'd, and I was Father Sisbin. I've had a great time in that game. I think that's my favorite game still, out of the 6. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Mr. Max is super underrated as a GM. I really think he did a really good job. He's very intelligent and quick on his feet and creative. The main takeaway I had from that game, or the thing I wanted to talk about, was there was a moment in the game where there was metagaming, and not the good kind of metagaming, right? It's the part where I'm like throwing the hearts underneath the house, the chicken hearts, and someone gets a slight wind of it, and like Eli knows exactly what's happened. He's like, "What were you throwing under there?" Like, what? Like, it's dark. Did you see that? But also, Crispy like wakes up and he's like, "What's this? Someone's throwing crap under the house." Like, take it easy. You just woke up. Investigate a little bit before you know exactly what happened. Um, and so normally, prior to me pursuing 4D roleplay, that would bother me greatly. Bother me a lot. Um, but in this case, it didn't really bother me. I was just like, oh. And they kind of corrected it themselves. They shifted it around. Like Crispy was like, kind of realized he was doing it, I think, and kind of corrected it. Um, and no, so normally that would bother me a lot, but in this case, it didn't bother me at all. And I didn't understand why. I don't know why it doesn't bother me. And I think it has something to do with 4D, like the goal of 4D versus games that I've played prior to this. Now, this game is the first game I've ever played um, with a GM that aspires to be 4D. Now, I'm saying that because not to say Max isn't 4D, but to say my other GMs didn't want to be or didn't try to be. Okay? They're traditional 2D GMs, as most of the GMs I've played with, as most of the GMs most people have played with are. And those types of games feel like, you know, role playing in those games is not the it's not the main course of the game. How do I say it? It's not the part that is material. I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like a byproduct of what you're doing. And in 4D, role playing is the goal. Like you're trying to, that's the goal of the game. And when I say role playing, I mean um, just casually defining role playing. Um, that's a good question, and we might have to address that later. It's a tough one. What is role playing? It's a lot of different ideas. My idea of what role playing is the act of putting yourself in the shoes of a character and try and experiencing and manipulating the world as though you were them. trying to get your mind into that headspace, um, and then acting as though you are them. Anyways, that's the goal. That's the game. Is doing that. Um, so back to my point, metagaming, when you're dealing with a 2D, which I like to think of it as more of a hybrid board game, which I like. I like games. I love board games. I'm a huge board game fan. So you mix board gaming and role playing together, I'm still happy. That whole spectrum, I'm happy. So whatever we're doing, I'm probably enjoying myself. But when I'm in this hybrid board game mode, I care about, I guess, winning more. I care about fairness. So, like, when I'm playing in a 2D game, or maybe I should say, like, in the past when I would play in a 2D game, if I felt there was an injustice due to rules called by the GM or metagaming, obviously, I would be really bothered by it. Like, too bothered. To the point where I'm going to mention it and make it awkward. Kind of be a dick about it. Sorry, I'm kind of a dick. But in this situation, it didn't matter to me that much. I mean, this is like the third or fourth time I'm bringing it up, so it matters to me. I think I'm more bringing it up because it's weird to me that it doesn't matter. And I think it's because the goal is making the story. The goal is, and if, who cares how we get to the story almost in the role playing game? I don't care if my character dies. Like, if it's interesting, I'm happy with what happens. So, outside of the fact that it might be a little bit of a plot hole that someone knows something they shouldn't, but that doesn't matter to me as much as like an injustice in a rule, like on a board game, and be like, hey, play it correctly. Otherwise, what are we playing? I feel like I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but basically, the fact that I care more about the story, I think, makes it so that I don't really care about metagaming, is what I'm trying to say. And I've beaten that dead horse enough. So, moving forward, highly recommend trying out playing as a big bad evil guy if you get the opportunity. Because playing that as a player character is super fun. I loved throwing those guys under the bus the whole time. The whole time I'm like, no, you're crap. That's a great time. Okay, next thing. What was next? Fear City 1. I'm just going to kind of lump it in with Fear City 2. This one, I was playing Tino. I want to say his name's Agostino. Tino Agostino. But his name's Tino. I don't know his last name still. This game kind of made me question if I even liked role-playing. And it's not because crispy at all. It's because the way I was playing Tino, and it kind of came to a realization I'm going to share it with you. But Tino is a cokehead killer, and high strung, paranoid, looking around. He's always got a witty quip. So he's like super on energy, always on edge. Like that, right? So when I'm role playing him, I decide that the way to do it, and I do this in 2 also, is I want to think myself into that mindset. I think myself into the mindset. I get like tense up. I was like tense the whole time. It's like digging my fingers into my freaking palm. And like you might see at the start of 2, I know I do it at the start of 2 because I rewatched these, right? I think I do it in 1 also, where I'm just kind of like bouncing back and forth like that. It's almost like I'm getting ready to fight the world with Tino. I'm about to box, right? So I had this super high energy, this tense energy, and I try to put it into my role play. And afterwards I'm like, ugh, that was tough. Like I kind of got sick of doing that, maybe. And I think the answer is obviously the same as it is with every other thing ever. Is that your thinking gets in the way. And it's probably the same case with role playing. Is it? I don't know. I think it is. With this last game I just played, I'm kind of questioning it because I tried what I'm describing now. But I think the move is to do the Bruce Lee be like water, enter the vessel, empty, no mind, you know what I mean? Like you don't have any thoughts, you're just kind of doing, you know. Uh, that's what you should aspire towards, not thinking as hard as you can to put your brain in the correct space. It's usually not the answer to um, doing things that require lots of tweaks. You know what I mean? Like in sports. I don't play any sports, but I imagine it's like this. It's about feel. I've heard that before. Because you're not gonna be thinking about, oh, I had to turn my little fingers, and then if I was gonna shoot a basketball or something, I got to make sure my hand is 2 degrees more this way. Like that's usually not what you're trying to do. You just kind of get a feel for it, and then like your body gives a little zap when it feels right or something. I think that's how people work. So I think you have to try to achieve that with role playing too. I'm curious. I want to play Fear City 3 if possible. I think I actually preferred Fear City 1. This is the other thing. I think I preferred Fear City 1 to Fear City 2. In Fear City 2, we got separated a lot. And there was like a big part of the game where I was on my own and like doing all this stuff in preparation to get like a utility van and I was getting uniforms. I was gonna fake all this cool stuff, and I finish up my thing. I bring it over there, and then they're leaving as I arrive. And then Max has to ram the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I have a van. Could have gotten a van anyway. So it's like a huge portion of my game was like pointless. And ended up just slowing down me and Max handling business anyways. So that's kind of a bummer. Also, I didn't really. This is my fault. 100%. Like, I didn't really understand what was going on with Rick and Steve. Like, I didn't really know what they were doing. I know they were, like, getting a safe and all that stuff, but it's like when I'm separate from them, I can't. I have this problem a lot. I have a problem with paying attention. That's something I had a problem with in this last game too. There was a couple points where I was like, I don't quite understand what's happening, and I make a couple mistakes because I misunderstood the setting or I'm not remembering continuity correctly. Anyways, Fear City 1, I like. Okay, before I go on there, the thing that people in the group were saying they liked, that they didn't like in Fear City 1 was that people seemed to talk over each other a lot and were stepping on each other's actions, and that was happening. It's fair. In Fear City 2, that didn't happen. But in Fear City 2, we're not together, so you can't talk over anybody if you're not together. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of cheating. So I liked the first one more because we were all together. I don't like it when everyone is separate, and this is kind of moving into the 4-Hour Traveler game, Expedition 2. So I'll just save that explanation for that one. The other thing that happened was the Wendy's game. And in the Wendy's game, it was so painful to play that game because of the puns. I actually rewatched it, and I didn't actually think it was too bad. On the rewatch, it's kind of about the same quality, maybe. I don't know if I even believe this, but it's about the. I would put it at about the same as the Werewolf Game 2, which I thought was better than Werewolf Game 1. So I'm probably being generous. Maybe the Wendy's game sucked more than I think it would do, but on the rewatch, that's what I thought. So that's my impression. The puns, man. It was really hard to play that game. I think I just don't want to play a silly game. I like humor interspersed with drama, interspersed with horror. I like it in there. I don't want humor to be the genre. That's what I figured out. But that's the only other game I've GM'd. So, okay, 4-Hour Traveler game. I thought was I enjoy playing with Shauner for the first time. So that was fun to see how he does things, and it was kind of funny, right? Um, the everyone was separate the whole time, and I don't like that. I think that I want to role play with the other player characters. When I'm role playing with NPCs, it kind of feels shallow, and it's not Rick's fault that it feels shallow. There was like 20 something NPCs. They're not all going to have in-depth personalities, especially since I'm spawning them. Like, how is Rick supposed to be expected to make an in-depth personality on an NPC I just generated? Whereas, I mean, you should just not expect that compared to a player character. Player character is going to have motivations, personality, nature, demeanor, World of Darkness reference. It's going to have those things, and NPCs aren't going to have as good of that, right? So I want to role play with the other player characters. Also, when you have NPCs, or when everyone's separate, the GM is always talking. The GM talks half the time, 50% of the time, and there's 5 players in that game. 50% of it is GM talking. Not good. I don't think that's a good thing for a 4D game. Now, you can't help it if everyone's separate because he has to react to everyone individually, or, the pairs that paired off. The last game we just played was the recent Traveler game, and that was pretty fun. It was me that said it. I wanted to see a combat heavy game and see what it looks like in 4D. It was the best combat I've ever had in a role playing game. I hate combat in role playing games, so I wanted to see what it was like in a 4D style, and it was fun. It was more cinematic. The long combat was starting to get I was getting a little tired of it, but Rick kind of wrapped it up like a round after I got tired of it. So good on him. His timing was good, and I asked for a heavy combat game. So, careful what you wish for. I don't know. It was a fun time, though. So maybe I guess it's good I wished for. I don't know. It was a fun game, though. My guy did not end up. I was pretty inconsistent. I think I played not great. I haven't rewatched it yet, and I always think I play not great before I rewatch things. I think I kind of dropped the ball on old Crazy Johnny, because Max was really crazy, and I was like, oh, you're a psychopath. I probably shouldn't be as much of a psychopath. So I let him have that mantle. I mean, he took it. I didn't have to let him do anything. So that's all the games. I think I still don't like combat in role playing games. I mean, what do you roll? 2d6? Hey, yay, I rolled a number. Yay, this happened. Everyone did a good job narrating, though, and it was very cinematic in my brain what was going on. So good on Rick. and good on the other players too. Okay, a couple other things I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of streams with Shauner. It's really fun talking to that guy. Those streams are me going to the bar with Sean and picking his brain. If I could buy him drinks, I would. Anyways, love y'all. God bless. Hope you have an excellent day.